So let's delve in. U.S. President Donald Trump has paused higher tariffs on most countries for 90 days after global markets plunged, but escalated pressure on China by raising its tariffs to 125%, accusing Beijing of disrespect. Now, the initial sweeping tariff plan imposed a baseline 10% import tax on all goods, with much steeper rates for countries like the EU, Vietnam and South Africa. But following a sharp global sell-off and a spike in U.S. debt yields to 4.5%, Trump backtracked, except for China. Markets cheered the partial retreat. Trump's move came just after China hit back with an 84% tariff on U.S. goods. Though Treasury officials downplayed the link to market turmoil, critics called the policy shift a sign of retreat. Now, China's retaliatory 84% tariffs on U.S. goods took effect Thursday, just hours after the U.S. hiked tariffs on Chinese imports to 125%, escalating an already tense trade conflict between the two nations. The move follows President Trump's exclusion of China from a 90-day tariff exemption offered to other nations. Beijing's response marks its firmest stance yet, with the Commerce Ministry vowing to fight to the end. Markets reacted sharply. Chinese stocks pared gains. U.S. futures slipped in Asian trading, and the yuan hit a 17-year low, underlining growing financial pressure amid the deepening standoff. Now, for China, the economic toll is mounting. March inflation data suggests U.S. tariffs are already denting its economy. China's consumer prices fell for the second month in a row, slipping 0.1% in March, while producer prices dropped 2.5%, the sharpest fall since November 2024. Core inflation showed a slight rebound, but overall price weakness signals lingering deflationary pressure. In response, Beijing is expected to fast-track new stimulus plans and expand fiscal and monetary support. Experts say producer deflation may deepen further as exporters battle shrinking global demand. Now, that is worsened by the latest U.S. tariff hike to 125%. China had earlier responded with an 84% tariff on American goods, fueling trade tensions. Now, also, Goldman Sachs has slashed its growth forecast for China, now expecting the economy to grow by 4% in 2025 and 3.5% in 2026. That's down from the earlier projections of 4.5% and 4% each. The downgrade follows a sharp hike in U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods, now at 125%, and this was announced by U.S. President Trump. Goldman warns the tariff hike will hit China's economy and job market hard. The bank expects China to respond with more stimulus, including deeper interest rate cuts. But it says even with these efforts, the damage from the tariffs may be difficult to undo. And the Philippines has cut its key interest rates by 25 basis points to 5.5% to help protect its economy from global trade tensions. The central bank says the move is in response to a challenging external environment as uncertainty over U.S. tariff policies rattles markets. It also signaled that more rate cuts could come later this year as the country looks to boost confidence and keep economic growth steady. Now, just looking at what's happening and trying to understand Trump's reason for backtracking at this moment, and also seeing market reactions to this, we're being joined by our correspondent in London, Juliana Olainka. Good morning, Juliana.
Good morning, Will.
Good morning. Now, Juliana, in the end of it all, we're seeing that Donald Trump was the one who blinked first. You know, we were wondering who was going to backtrack first, but Donald Trump blinked, making that abrupt change, of course, from his, initial tariffs, giving 90-day grace. We've seen that pause countries, from higher U.S. tariffs. China, well, however, is unfortunate. We've seen that escalation there. But this has been a relief for markets, hasn't it?
It certainly has been a relief for markets. We've seen this morning in London, both the FTSE 100 and the FTSE 250, they've risen by more than 6%. And I think, it just goes to show that there has been an absolute relief felt across the world following the announcement by Donald Trump last night. I think it's very important just to emphasize and to make it clear that, the tariffs haven't gone away, and there's been a 90-day pause on higher tariffs, but that blanket universal tariff of 10% has still been implemented. So all countries are going to have to pay 10% on imports into the US. over the next 90 days, which is why there are some lawmakers within the UK who are not feeling particularly special now, even though everybody talks about this special relationship. We weren't exempt from the 10% universal blanket tariffs. And now that some countries, I believe about 57 countries, have had that higher rate of tariff wiped away, Britain still doesn't appear to be getting anything. So I think the world watches and waits. It's quite interesting hearing from Donald Trump yesterday. We know that he's an avid consumer of news. There have been so many execs. I think particularly JP Morgan's Jamie Dimon, who was on, I believe it was CNBC last night, he really seemed to have rattled the president. And of course, Elon Musk, we know, who is the CEO of Tesla. They've been, hit left, right and centre over the past couple of weeks. And as you said, he appears to have taken the first retrieve. But how long is this going to last? We shall just have to wait and see.
Okay, so we're just wondering now, this retreat or this pause, is it a negotiating strategy for Trump? Do you think he has more chips to play here?
I'm not certain, of course, because I'm not part of his advisory team within the White House. But, big business, big pharma, big car bosses, they, apart from the MAGA crowd, are Trump's base, right? And he doesn't want to do anything to dissatisfy them. How are we going to know whether or not this is played out? We'll have to wait and see for the midterms, and we know they're not coming for a couple of years. So perhaps this is a strategy. It does appear as if Trump does want to isolate China, which is why we're seeing levies of up to 125%. And it does go back to sort of 5-6 years ago when there was this same war between Beijing and Washington. Perhaps China was the main goal all along. We don't know. Certainly, there does appear to be negotiations taking place. I believe Donald Trump said yesterday that Japan is at the top of the queue when it comes to negotiating. So perhaps this was a strategy all along. But again, you'd have to be a very close insider in the White House to be able to answer that question fully. And even those within the White House who are the closest to Trump still do not know what his next move is going to be.
Thank you so much, Juliana. We do hope that we get an insight into Trump's thoughts and know what his next move will be. It's like the world is his playground, and we'll see how he goes next. Thank you so much, Juliana, for joining us from London. Juliana is our Channels TV correspondent there in London. Thank you so much.